Hello, and welcome to a very basic introduction to Excel with a hopefully straightforward and common use, your everyday budget. But first, what is Excel? Excel is kind of like one of these things. It's just a calculator. But instead of, say, typing in your salary, say $50,000, and then having to subtract out, 5% of that $50,000, and then getting, the wrong number, then having to start all over again. And maybe not doing it right still. What we need to do with Excel is we can make it calculate over and over again, and without changing the numbers sometimes, or if we need to change numbers, we can do that. We can modify numbers. Maybe my salary goes up, maybe my salary goes down, maybe my costs go up, which is probably more common. So it's a really big calculator that can calculate many things and update them very quickly, and you can save your results to a file, which is great. So I'm going to get rid of that calculator and going to bring up an Excel spreadsheet here. Make it nice and big, and we don't need to use all these cells. Each one of these is considered a cell, and this cell is P19. We can call it P19 if we want to, but I'm going to use this button down here and make it really big so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Now again, each one of these things is known as a cell, and it contains some form of data or relationship, and this one's called, for example, C6. As you can see up here, it's called C6. Now we can rename this cell, C6, anything we want to. So we could call it height, or salary, or tax, and then that cell will be known as either C6 or that number or word or whatever we decide to call it up there. Okay, well, that's an introduction to the main part of the screen here. Let's go up here to the ribbon, and I'm going to make sure that ribbon is showing, and it gives many of the same common Windows formats. Up here we can insert charts and word art and equations and so on, page layouts. All this stuff is fairly common to Windows programs. But back to what Excel can really do for you. This is a calculator. So I can write 67, and then 38, and then 98 here. And then I type the most important keystroke in all of Excel, the equal sign. This equal sign starts making what's called formulas. So if I wanted to multiply each of these, all I'd have to do is click on that cell. Or if I wanted to, I could type C3. And to multiply, we use the asterisk symbol. That's our multiplier. And then I just click on cell D3 that happens to have 38, multiply, and then 98, and just hit enter, and it does all that calculation for you. But that's not the best part about it. The best part is I can change this number right off the bat, and I never have to reprogram this to calculate. So it does it and updates it automatically. So put 10 here and 10 here, and look, we get our new result. I'm just going to delete everything that's in each of these cells, and we're going to go to the exercise at hand, which is creating a budget using Excel. Now, so your assignment might look something like this. So when we estimate it, try to make a budget, we estimate the income and we estimate the outgo. So when we estimate the income, we have to consider all of these factors, maybe more. And when we consider the spending, we might have these, we might have fewer, and we might have more, but we'll just go right into it here. So the first thing we want to do is estimate our income. Now you can fill in more than numbers. You can fill in text. You can fill in a variety of different things. We can use money. We can use angles. We can use area. There's all sorts of things that we can use in here. And it can be a very basic database, although it's really not a great program to use as a really well done database. But you can use it as something basic just to keep phone numbers or addresses or something. Now, for our income, we want to first estimate our wages. Say we have an hourly job. So here's our hourly rate. And our hourly rate is, say, $10 per hour. Now notice how I don't put the units other than the currency in here. If I did put $10 per hour, it wouldn't really know how to calculate that. So I'm going to simply put $10. And I suggest putting units in here up above. Now you may notice that I did something neat to make sure that the hourly rate wasn't passed over. All you do to make a column as wide as its widest entry is double click on the line in between. So I'm just going to double click here. Now if you happen to have a whole bunch of these columns that were like this and they were too small, all you have to do is select everything. That's just clicking in this rectangle right here, and everything gets selected. Then you double click on any one of these lines that's in between, and all of the columns will expand out. That can become a problem sometimes, but very often is quite useful. Okay, let's go back to hourly rate, and let's see, hours per week. And we'll say 40 hours a week. And look at that. Too long again. I'll double click here and there it is. Looks good. This doesn't seem to be in the right spot because it's not 440 per hour. I'm going to cut that so I can right click and I can go to cut, left click, and then paste. There it is, just like everything else. 40 hours per week, and then I'm going to calculate how much gross pay I have per week. I type this magical equals sign, and we multiply this times this. And all I'm doing to put these in here is simply clicking on those locations. Notice how this is multiplying whatever happens to be in D4 times whatever happens to be in D5. So if I get a 50-cent raise, and I'm making 10 bucks and a half per hour, hit that, and my gross pay per week is automatically changed. Now again, I'm going to make this column wider, and notice how the 11 is, well, that was supposed to be 1050. Well, if we want to move decimal places or have additional digits beyond the decimal point, we simply click up here, and this will increase the decimals or decrease the decimals depending on which way you want to go. Now I can also make this automatically go to full currency just by clicking here using accounting formats. So here are some basic number formats. There are many different ones. We can use number, currency, accounting, dates, percentages, fractions even in scientific notation. So we have the gross pay per week identified here. I'm going to re-enter that here. Gross pay. And this is going to be weekly. And then some bills and some things come bi-weekly. Actually, I get paid every 2 weeks. So this can be very helpful here. And then monthly. Some bills, some pay comes monthly. And then it's a good idea to keep track of things on an annual basis. So we're going to do this budget on all these, using all these different methods. So all I have to do to put in my weekly pay is simply go equals and click on what I've already done. There it is. To make it bi-weekly, I type equals again. I click on this and I multiply by 2. Now monthly is really tricky. So we're going to skip that for now. We're going to go to annually. Now you might say monthly is 4 weeks, but it is not. There's only 1 month that is 4 weeks long, and that's February, and it's not even always 4 weeks long. So we're going to go straight to annually. Now annually, on average, is 365.25 days. So 365 days a year. Unless it's a leap year, then it's 366. And that's every 4 years. So on average, it's 365 and a quarter days. Well, a week is always 7 days. So the common denominator between weekly and annually is the day. So annually is going to be 365.25 times, and we need to open parentheses sometimes, we're going to multiply by weekly, but we got to take that weekly and divide by 7 days per week. So this is what we make on average per day throughout the year. Multiply that by 365.25 and we'll find out what we have for the entire year. And there is our gross annual pay. Now monthly, now that we've got annually, well, there are 12 months out of the year. So type equals again, click on what the annual cell shows, and divide by 12. So we use this. Now, I strongly recommend if you get more complicated formulas to use a lot of parentheses. It's difficult sometimes, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, so that's our gross pay. Well, what are our deductions out of the pay stub? Well, say like me, you get your check every 2 weeks. You just go to your pay stub and you find that you have federal income tax. And you find out that on average you have $20 taken out for federal income tax every week. And so then you also have FICA, which is your Social Security, and that ends up being, say, $10 a week, and your state income tax is $5 per week. And then you have some health benefits, and that's $25 per paycheck. And say you have union dues, and that is $10 per paycheck. Now, some of these things might actually be percentages. So you might want to change this income tax from 20. See, if you got a pay increase or decrease, you'd be paying more. So you'd want this to automatically update. Let's say your federal income tax rate is actually around 3%. And FICA is around 2%. And your state income tax is around 1%. And your health benefits are around 4%. And your union dues are also around 2%. You can simply take this, go equals this times 3%, and you're good to go. Now you could do the same thing. Equals this times 2%, and keep typing all the way down here. Or you can do something very cool and special. First, what we want to do is make this cell into a name. So we're going to make this name bi-weekly gross. But we cannot put spaces in there. So we'll just call it bi-weekly gross like that. And we will, instead of calling it B12 in this formula, we'll call it by, there it is. We have that name right there. And so double click on it and enter, and it gives me this trouble. Oh, I've got the wrong thing here. So all I've got to do is select that, click on 3% instead. There we go. So our formula here shows that we have our 3% times our biweekly gross. Now the really cool thing happens. If I want each one of these to multiply its approximate percentage times our biweekly gross, all I do is grab this little corner here showing the black cross, and I would click and hold and drag down to each of these. And guess what? They all update automatically. So you'll see up at the top here that the first one's B12 times biweekly gross, the next one is B13, the next one is B14, the next one's B15, and the next one's B16. It's great. So I don't have to do all that extra typing. It just automatically knows that as I click and drag down, it knows to update this cell reference one at a time. Now that's the main reason that I chose to make this into a named cell, because otherwise it would also have been referencing E9. I'll show you how that can be a problem. So I make it B12 times E9, and then I do the fill down. Watch what happens. Okay, weird stuff happens because the E9 and the B12 each get updated. So it's B13 times E10, B14 times E11, and so here we are multiplying this times this. Notice how the green hooks up with that green and the blue hooks up with that cell that's highlighted in blue. So if instead we go back to the buy, there it is, weekly gross, I enter that and I drag down, there we go. Another way of doing that is simply selecting all of it and holding the control key down and typing D for fill down. The same thing can be done for fill across, but I'll show you some of that later. What happens now? Well, I can simply do equals this divided by 2 for my weekly pay, and then I can copy and paste this annually, which is based on weekly. I'm going to Control C or right click copy, then right click paste right there, and that's how much I pay annually out of paycheck into income tax. And this monthly, copy, paste. And you know what I can do for this entire line? I can grab this bottom, click and drag down, and poof, it's all done. And oh goodness, I just got another raise. And everything is updated. Now one problem is that here we have we don't have the proper accounting set up here. So all I need to do is select whatever I want to have formatted that way, click, and it's all formatted nice and neatly together. Okay, those are my pay stub deductions. So what do I have as my take-home pay? Well, type that famous equals again. Equals this minus one of my other favorite things to type, sum. So we just add up a bunch of different things. And I can click here and drag down. So I can even do the entire thing here, but I'm not going to. Just want to take this column, and don't forget to close out those parentheses, and hit enter. So this is the 430 minus all of these taken out. And then, like I said I would show you, I can click here and drag over to the right. So each one of these cells here reflects the gross pay minus whatever is taken out within that time period, biweekly, monthly, and annually. So we end up with a take-home pay of $19,744.37. That takes care of our income. Now we're going to go with our spending, or outgo. I'm going to click and drag and copy, right, Control C, and paste right here. I'll make this a little smaller. There we go, so we can catch it all. So I'm going to put in some of the big ones. Rent, utilities, transportation. So we'll just call it car payment. And if your car is all paid off, then you should be saving up some money for the next car. Food, media, so that might be, say, a Pandora One account or Netflix or something like that. You might also put them into entertainment, but maybe that's just going out type entertainment. Don't forget gas in the car and repairs and maintenance. We'll get into cars a little bit more in another exercise. And that should be repairs or maintenance for anything that you own. Could be computers. Then our favorite, savings. So rent's usually paid monthly. So we're just going to fill these things in here. Rent's usually paid monthly, and let's say we spend $600 in rent. And utilities are also paid usually monthly. And a car payment is often paid monthly as well. Food. This is regular food, not entertainment food. But usually food might go more on a weekly basis. You might remember what you spent at the grocery store. Media, those can be monthly. And this includes your cable bill. So if you have, unless cable is included in the utilities, well, that's up to you. But maybe I'll up this to more like $50 a month. Oh my goodness, there's the phone. So, oh yes, there's your phone. Forgot about that. Okay, we'll call media phone. There we go. And entertainment, you go out on the town for say 30. Gas, people usually consider that more of a weekly thing. These days it seems it's like about $5,000 a week, but it's actually a little bit less than that. So 50. Repairs. Now you might put that aside annually. That's what you might have to do. So never quite sure when those repairs and maintenance come along. And then what's your goal to save annually? Let's say it's trying to put $50 away monthly. Okay, so now we're going to have to fill in all the rest of this. Annually for monthly is really easy. Equals this times 12. And I can fill these two down, or I can copy and paste. Copy and paste. Okay. Now monthly can come from annually pretty easily. Equals, click on that, divide by 12, and I can equals that, divide by 12, and oh, another monthly one, so I can copy and paste. Okay, that was easy. Well, didn't we have some a weekly over here, and we had bi-weekly based on all that? I can copy this whole thing, copy and paste, paste, paste. Oh dear, looks like we have these number things. That's fine. That just means that there's not enough space in the cell to show what's going on. So I just double click here and it expands out and shows us what we need. Okay, so now we just have to worry about the weekly and the bi-weekly based on the annually. Remember that the key thing here is the day. So the weekly is equal to 7 days per week times the annual amount, but we divide that by 365.25 days in a year. So the annual amount divided by 365.25 is how much it is per day, and on a weekly basis this is what it looks like, 7 times that. Doing it this way can give you a really good copy, paste, copy, paste, really good sense of how much you really spend on either a daily basis or a weekly basis, so that you can get better control over your own finances. 2 times this, and we're going to drag that down now. Just make sure you don't drag over your other data. Copy, paste, 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 paste. Okay. Let's make a total of here. Now here's a nice little button that they have here. It's called Autosum. Remember my favorite thing that shows a sum? Well, this will do it for you, but only if you do it in just the right way. It'll still put equals sum. The question is, will it guess the right ones that you want? In this case, I have it set up nicely so that it does. I'm going to hit enter. Show you how to do that again. Click here and go to Autosum. And it'll, in this case, it guessed it again. Click here, Autosum. Oh, look, it now is guessing that I want to add up the numbers to the left. If it guesses wrong, all you have to do is click and drag the numbers that you actually want. Click, Autosum. Oh, guessing wrong again, but I want you to add up these numbers. There we go. So, what's left over? Equals this minus this. Uh-oh, we're in trouble. We are spending a little bit more than we're taking in. In fact, annually our budget is about $1,200 in the hole. Now, unlike the federal government, we can't keep doing this, and you might have to take out some form of credit card or something like that, but you have to pay it off at some point. So what we're going to do is go back to our budget, go back to our spending, and see what we can cut down. Now, it would be very simple if I found a cheaper place to live or got a roommate, $500, and boom, we are now doing fine. But life is a little bit chancy like that. We want to maybe find another spot. Maybe we can cut our entertainment down from 30 to 25. Maybe we could carpool, get some gas in there. Really don't want to touch that savings. And oh, you know what? I noticed that our $50 here and 100, these aren't consistent. We should make all of these consistent decimal places that make a lot of sense. Now, if you don't want that many decimal places, we can take these and move them back, and you get at least a real good idea of how much you're making. Okay. A question that comes up a lot is, oh my, I forgot to put something, one of my pay stub deductions in or something like that. And how do I put in another row or another column? Well, all you got to do is right click on the number or the letter. So in this case, I'm just going to right click on the number. I'm going to insert, and we're going to be putting 3% of our money away in our 401k. And all we need to do is click here and drag down. And this should also be set up to add it up. Now, it may not have been set up that way. That's why I like to make sure that when I do a sum, that it actually drags down all the way to below the line. Because we didn't go below the line, we didn't capture this 401k, so this summation is not considering what we just put in there. So I'm going to put this down to D18, even though it's adding up something that doesn't have any value in it. Hit enter, click there, and drag to the right. And now we have a little bit less take-home pay. And annually, we are in definitely a little bit of trouble. So this is really nice to be able to see how changes in your financial standpoint really affect the bottom line right there. So if we wanted to live like this, what price point should we go to? Let's see how $12 an hour looks. Wow, what a difference that made. Just another $1.25 per hour puts us clearly in the black instead of being in the red. $11 an hour brings us right about even. That's a little bit tight for me. So now we know what we need to shoot for when we're going about our business trying to find a new job. So in summary, Excel is a big calculator that will calculate things very quickly if you set them up right. Notice how our base information is right here. Just $12 an hour, 40 hours per week. We calculate everything else from gross pay and how the calendar works. We enter in how much roughly our taxes are and what we're trying to save. And then we plug in how much our expenditures are. And again, use formulas to figure out what they are on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or annual basis. And we come up with, again, using formulas, not entering numbers in or plugging something in from the calculator. We find out what's left over. And there is a basic budgeting spreadsheet using Excel.